day at midnight, the sun was so bright, the moon had no light, but I could see this big old Sasquatch. Said he was top-notch at playing hopscotch way up in a tree. So I bet my wristwatch that big old Sasquatch could never play hopscotch way up in a tree. Now there's a Sasquatch up in a tree crotch. He's got my wristwatch and he's laughing at me. I told the Mounties throughout the counties to put some bounties all over BC and stop that Sasquatch from playing hopscotch till he gives my wristwatch right back to me. Then Corporal Savern, he found a tavern in an empty cavern where the sun don't shine, and he found a Sasquatch drinking blue blood, wearing a wristwatch looking just like mine. So he asked the Sasquatch where he got the wristwatch, and that big old Sasquatch, he began to lie. Said he got the wristwatch while playing hopscotch up in a tree crotch with a stupid old guy. So the Mountie told him he could never hold him. He'd have to scold him for doing no harm. So they played some hopscotch until the Sasquatch had the Mountie's wristwatch on his other arm. Now all the Mounties throughout the counties, they're placing bounties all over the land. And that big old Sasquatch, he won't feel top-notch when they get their Sasquatch like they get their man. 'Cause if that Sasquatch keeps playing hopscotch, there won't be a wristwatch for miles around. 'Cause he'll play hopscotch till he gets your wristwatch up in that tree crotch, and he'll never come down. So don't play hopscotch near any old tree crotch until that old watch stealing, big feeling, hopscotch and Sasquatch is found.
You gotta love it, man. All right, let me know if I'm coming in like really super hot, because I sound like I'm coming in really super hot. You good, Jake? I can see you. I had you to stream. We got Jake and AJ here with us.
Howdy, howdy. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Whatever that was.
That was a
Generation Next.
I don't know.
Oh. I'm lost, dude. You lost me. But it's good enough. Government work. It's all right. So how you doing?
Alan Go.
Oh, no.
I saw him do it once. I don't know what it means either, but it looks cool.
All right, if you say so, brother. I'll take your word for it as an expert and cool on this one.
How you doing, Misconduct?
Yeah, no, we got a few people in the chat. We got Alpine Gulch. We got Official Misconduct. Let's go back to the beginning first. We got Shari Ives, who came in first. She gets the gold. American Justice gets the silver. And Mama Gnome gets the bronze. Welcome to the show, each and every one.
They say second is the best. First is the worst. Second is the best.
Jack Murphy would agree, but I'm not going.
I just tree crotch is.
I do like that. That's pretty good. I've been poking around trying to find a theme song to purchase outright. Just to
you found it.
Go hunt that bastard down and buy it. Stalk his ass till he lets me have it. Just look at him and stare at him and be big and hairy, and eventually it'll soak in. You'll get the idea. It belongs to me anyway, dude. Just let me pay for it. All right, so you all know what the topic tonight is?
No.
All right.
I'm coming in full.
Awesome. I'm so glad at least one of y'all's coming in blind. For first of all, let me finish chat first. We've got officially misconduct, previous guests. We've got Walter Davis. We've got Work Lion, Honest Lee, who's somebody I'd like to talk to backstage at some point. Alpine Gulch, and yeah, no, I think that pretty well covers everybody. Okay, so not too terrible long ago, back before the apocalypse. There
It's
was
untethered official misconduct.
Yes, this is Untethered Live with Jake Johnson.
And hey, American Justice.
Hey.
Welcome to the show. Anyway, so there was this bill passed that would limit the number of cows that were permitted to be in the U.S. And I went, well, that's kind of weird. And I didn't think it'd catch any teeth or legs. And eventually it did kind of pick up steam and do some decent damage in the beef industry. As of like past 2 years, food processing has become quite a bit of an issue with all the various fires and whatnot that have taken place mysteriously. So it occurred to me, they're wanting to limit the beef processing, or at least limit the factory farming of beef. This, I guess, would also transfer over into turkeys, chickens, fish, anything else you could factory farm, eggs. I mean, you name it, it all makes methane. And I started thinking, what is the biomass difference between our factory farming methods in North America as opposed to the natural state of North America pre-Columbus? And do you have any idea how many bison were roaming in the North American plains before Columbus showed up? Do you have any clue? Somewhere in the ballpark at any given moment, any particular time,
All of them.
700 million. But we have 70 million cows total. That counts calves, that counts every piece of cattle, that counts supposedly the random farmers out there that have cows, because you have to buy those from registered cow buyers, sellers, and stuff. So 70 million as opposed to 700 million. That's just bison. That's the bison by themselves. And I don't think anyone alive today can consider the concept of what 70 million head of bison would look like crossing a state for 5 days. Or take the passenger pigeon. Once upon a midnight dreary, the passenger pigeon flew across Illinois for 4 days. It blotted out the sun with the size of its flock for 4 days. There are stories written. I think one of the better ones, if I remember right, it's named "The Day the Sun Didn't Shine." It was a 4-day passenger pigeon excursion traveling from one side of the Mississippi to the other, which is all they really did. That was their migration was East Coast, West Coast, right there, bam. So you could just walk up, throw nets on them, and get $20 for squab. The biomass in a passenger pigeon flock would be equivalent to 2/3 of the cows that we currently have. A single flock, and there were at least 9 at any given point in time, and most of them were on the order of a couple of billion. Billion. Blot out the sun, because they're moving, they're traveling. They would land on buildings and collapse them. There were so many of them. Their poop would cover everything, like everything. Can you imagine it? Now, I want you to consider what the elimination of the passenger pigeon meant to the prairie of the West. Without the passenger pigeons eating the seeds and spreading them in such copious amounts of fertilizer, some of the seeds didn't germinate properly because they're supposed to be eaten by a bird and then spread. Also, another feature of the bison and the passenger pigeon are a resemblance to invasive species. You don't usually come across vast hordes of a single type of animal. That's not a natural environment, typically. Usually, you have a nice blend of different types of herbivores taking up those niches. But in North America, we only had the great bison. We had the great bison, the Rocky Mountain bison, and the eastern woodland bison, and that's it. That was it for large herbivores eating shit out of the ground. We had deer, we had a few like elk, moose, and a couple other things, but they didn't really branch out into the plains all that much. I mean, I guess your bighorn sheep and whatnot may have, but anyway, you get my point. My point is, I cannot see, after having looked into the number of these animals, the sheer biomass that they represented, how far we could take factory farming before we actually tell. Because even counting the people that are walking around in North America, we still haven't matched the biomass of a single bison herd. There was a bunch of them, and they're freaking huge. Now, what
Yeah,
farts more, a bison or a cow? Who knows, right?
I would say bison.
I would guess a bison, given that it's worth 2 cows. Maybe it farts twice as much. I don't know, but it just seems a little ironic to me that you want to go after the food source while saying we need more food.
Yes, but we have something that exists today that did not exist back then.
SJWs? Snowflake.
Democratic Party.
Oh.
This bill that you're talking about that you started off with,
Right.
it's a bullshit bill to bolster income for the Democratic Party. It has absolutely nothing to do with logic or reality.
Well,
It's
this
a
part is reality. This part that I'm talking about is logic and reality. That's exactly what it is.
I know. I'm talking about the bill you introduced the show with, the banning of certain meats or certain growth or whatever you said. That whole thing ties into global warming, and that whole thing is a ploy to make money. It's a fear-mongering tactic. It has absolutely nothing to do with reality.
That I suppose that is possible. There are other people that absolutely swear by the concept of man-induced climate change, and that it's a microcosm, not a macro event.
Do you know what the main global warming is? It's the production of carbon dioxide. Let me reach back to my grade school years and see if I can think of anything that might eat carbon dioxide. Trees eat carbon dioxide and turned it into oxygen.
And into trees.
So if we have an abundance of carbon dioxide, that's a good thing. Plant more trees.
Or hemp. I was on a stream earlier today where there's a lady out west that's really, really wanting to, instead of replanting the various lodgepole pine forest out west with, she wants to do it with industrial grade hemp.
Hey, if it's green, it'll eat carbon dioxide.
Her argument was, right, it'll eat carbon dioxide. You can harvest it 3 times a year. It's growing invasively in its natural environment. And
I don't have any problem with that. What I have a problem with is people using that knowledge. We got too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere to scare people, when that's the actual function of the earth. That's what it's supposed to do.
So you don't think there's any veracity to the burning of fossil fuels being a negative impact?
I don't think we could hurt this planet if we tried to.
Okay,
I think it would spit us out and start over if it wanted to.
Shrug us off like a service nuisance.
In a heartbeat. This planet is way bigger than it seems. I've walked a portion of it. I can tell you for sure it's bigger than you think it is.
Oh man, I drove across Texas, and let me tell you something. Until you get out there on that Great Plain and you're riding along and you start nodding the fuck out because you've been riding for 3.5 hours straight.
3.5 days.
Like, I only went halfway across Texas. I was running 125 coming out of that joint. It still took me 4.5 hours to get
Well, from the panhandle of Florida to Oklahoma is a 3-day drive.
Right. But from the east side of Texas to the west side of Texas is also a 3-day drive.
Yeah, well, that's about as far as you can go. California's next. A couple other.
Pretty much on the west coast. Yeah, that's right.
Takes me 8 hours to get out of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. And you head up to the Panhandle, don't you?
No.
Naughty. So, after we do a couple of these little videos, I'm gonna let this here play in the background for a little while. I got a
Bison
couple.
versus
Hold up.
I don't have it.
This is a visual and physical comparison between a buffalo and a Cape buffalo, like an American, North American bison versus a Cape buffalo.
Mm.
I'm not sure how many different species of North American bison there are, but I don't believe it's but really one with a couple of subgroups.
Yeah.
Because your North American bison has all the earmarks of an invasive species. And I have a theory where it may have come from. In the Rocky Mountains, there is a smaller, less aggressive, less invasive type of bison called a Rocky Mountain bison. And they're found on little islands all up the coast through or used to be found on little islands all up down the coast from California and Washington and Oregon and all up through there. But they were also isolated in pockets up in the mountains. And I think sometime about 20,000, 30,000 years ago, a handful of these Rocky Mountain bison made it out into what was at the time mastodon steppe land, right? And the bison outcompeted the mastodon for just space because when white man showed up on the East Coast, we found herds of bison in the forest. They weren't enormous. We killed a few and ate them. But when we hit the Great Plains, there were times when the bison would pass for days. You just had to stay inside and wait for them to go. They would just trample down any fencing, any walls, anything that you put up out there would just get stamped flat by the bison. And it wasn't a malicious thing. They just didn't notice it on their way through. They plowed it under with everything else. And that's an amazing volume of biomass.
Hard
And
to
today,
believe we hunted them to extinction, isn't it?
damn near it, very near it. And there may be subspecies we did hunt to extinction, right? So, I mean, there's no way to know how many species of bison we're here to start with. Okay,
All
Carrie, I
the been
just
some,
got your email. I'm sorry, I didn't think to check it before the show, but I just got your email. Just let me know when you get a response from her. We'll set that up. However she wants to do it. If she wants to do an actual show or whatever it is she wants to do, we'll get together backstage, talk about it in private. That way she can yes, no, maybe, whatever. We'll do that thing. So when it comes to the comparison between a Cape buffalo and a North American bison, the North American bison has the Cape buffalo by about half a ton. Right?
mm-hmm.
I mean, they are heavy, heavy, beastie beasts. Whereas the Cape buffalo is just raw dog mean and aggressive.
Yes, but they're delicious.
What? Pardon?
I said they're delicious.
Okay, sure, but more people get killed hunting Cape buffalo than lions because a Cape buffalo has a little bit more intelligence than your average herbivore.
Yeah.
Cape buffalo gets shot. He runs off into a thicket over there somewhere and stands there. He gets down on his front knees and ducks. And the hunter has to drive up in towards the thicket as close as he can get. He has to get out of his truck and go look for that buffalo. And when he finds that buffalo, what he finds is a slightly wounded animal that murders his face.
Yeah, but imagine what it was like when you hunted that thing with a sharpened stick.
No. Negative.
No truck.
Just
no gun.
no. Chemical shed. I am the alpha. I am the dominant predator in this situation. And I'm not getting out the truck either. I'm gonna run that son of a bitch over. Fuck that. I've seen.
I mean, back in the days when they were hunted to extinction, they didn't have guns. They had bow and arrow, and they had spears, and
right.
probably had traps.
What do you think about it, AJ?
Walking up on one of those things caught in a trap and trying to gig it with a spear.
Giggity.
I bet those hunters got their asses handed to them more than once.
Well, you know what they found when they looked at the skeletons of Neanderthals? they look like bronco riders, like people who like rodeo riders. They look like rodeo clowns. Their breaks, the types of injuries they had, rodeo clowns,
That doesn't surprise me at all because they had to do everything physical.
right? So the idea being that apparently they got a big stick and they went over there and juked it in the side and then rode that summit till it died.
Mm-hmm.
Parent, that seems to be what it shows.
Worse than hunting that thing. Could you imagine calling the hunter an asshole?
You wouldn't want to be a farmer at that time.
That's got to be one big dude.
Yeah.
Mean feller.
Hold up. All right, so I found this one like yesterday. Homecuz has 593 subscribers, and I want you to check out the quality of this man's work. It is absolutely stunning. A little bit crispy on the vocals and stuff, but I mean, you got to start somewhere. And he apparently already has Patreons. He has some backing. He's got another channel. I haven't been able to find it yet, although that link probably goes to it. Check this dude out. Go sub to him.
While there seems to be at least one good story about species extinction, we ask the question, are we humans eating ourselves into a corner? Canadian researcher Lenore Newman has identified several examples of humans historically mismanaging culinary species into an irreversible eradication. However, one recently discovered lost group gives us hope. The passenger pigeon. The traditional French dish of tortillere enjoyed by Canadians is really a sad reminder of a disappeared bird. One of the many footprints of extinct species in our culture, according to Newman, who has just published a book entitled Lost Feast. Originally, the wild migratory passenger pigeon was so plentiful that they would blacken the sky when taking flight en masse. The bird was a vital food source for indigenous groups in North America over centuries. There are records of European settlers also consuming the passenger pigeon in great numbers from as early as 1605. The birds became an essential mainstay of the colonial diet, as well as compromising gourmet dishes at top restaurants, such as the famous New York City restaurant Delmonico's.
There's a story that a 9-year-old kid in, I think it was Illinois, could make 15 cents a day by gathering the dead pigeons, specifically passenger pigeons, from local cities. And that what was killing the pigeons were the horn blasts from the trains. Every time they blast the horn, pigeons have a heart attack, fall out the sky, and kids run out, pick up all the pigeons and skin them and take them and put them in the big barrel over there where they render them down and ship them to Paris for meals. That. Passenger pigeon is another one of those species that seems to represent a high likelihood of having been an invasive species in North America pre-Columbian.
I think it's their own fault.
Passenger pigeon?
Yep.
Well, they cut it up.
Mentioned in the Bible.
Hey, Lackluster, welcome to the show, brother. It's good to see you. You familiar with Lackluster?
Never met him.
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
Lackluster.
He's cool beans, man. He's one of my favorite channels. He does First Amendment auditors. He he reviews First Amendment auditors and cops in general, and he does an excellent job. And he also has another channel. I think it's the Odd Side. What's your other channel, Lackluster? Somebody, I have no mods in the chat. Can you believe that?
Weird. Where's April at?
It is weird. I don't know. April's supposed to be here. Cheese Bear's busy. I knew she wasn't going to be here. And Judd's doing something with Mexican long hair. But I'm going to go dig up it. Yeah, it is the Odd Side. That's right. That's another really, really good one. I just like the cases he chooses. That's exactly the channel I was starting when I started my stuff here. It was just weird stuff, you know. And
Cool.
they never ran into a bunch of other people doing weird stuff. He's absolutely excellent.
But
yeah, no,
I think it's the pigeons. I think it's their own fault. They're just too delicious.
they are
Quail,
too delicious.
that was mentioned in the Bible. Have you ever eaten a quail? They're kind of rubbery. They're not very good. They'll fill you up all right, but they're not delicious.
I don't know. My pops really, really likes quail, brother. Like a lot. A whole bunch.
But
Quail and gravy.
pigeon?
Anyway,
Has he ever eaten a carrier pigeon?
probably not.
I rest my case.
All right. You got me. Surrender. Let it roll.
In May 1868, they were used in recipes such as pigeon patty at a 35-course, 8-hour banquet for Charles Dickens. Demand for the protein staple continued until the late 19th century, even while stocks started to diminish. Once numbering in the billions, it only took a few hundred professional hunters to seal the doom of the passenger pigeon, aided.
That's not passenger pigeons, folks. That is a stack of bison skulls.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. I remember there's this story I read back in the day. It was about this Texas or Oklahoma town somewhere up in that area in the plains had problems with their cattle being damaged by the bison skulls laying out in the prairie. And so they started a lotto for a rifle. I think it was a 41 caliber revolving rifle. To everyone who comes in would get with a bison skull would get a lotto ticket, and you win the rifle from the drawing. And they brought in something like 122,000 bison skulls the first year, and they didn't bother counting it after that. So they did it for like 3 or 4 years. And the story goes, I can't remember what newspaper it was in, but the story goes that there was a pyramid of bison skulls the size of the Great Pyramid. Now, that's during the day of yellow journalism, and it might be a bit exaggerated. But still, looking at this, I might be inclined to believe it.
I'd say so.
I mean, that thing is huge.
Remember a minute ago when we were talking about how big the world was, much bigger than you thought it is? Imagine that place not too far from where you're at, where there is a pyramid of bison skulls, and it's not weird to them.
Oh, no, they would be gathered up for ivory at this point.
Sure.
And horn, which is used in like bows and all kinds of other stuff, glue.
But in your day-to-day life, you wouldn't think that kind of a place exists, but it does.
No, they do. And to this day, you regularly dig up bison skulls in the process of any type of major construction that happens west of the Mississippi. It's so common you don't even call nobody about it.
Right. Big world.
Agreed. All right, we're gonna let this one run. I really like his style.
He seems like one of the British commentators.
I'm not sure where he came from. I know he has a British accent or something along those lines. But I stumbled across him a couple of days ago when I was looking into the whole passenger pigeon debacle. And it occurred to me, there's a few really big channels out there that cover it, and I found a small one and a medium-sized one. And this one, some of his other work is phenomenal, and he's only been uploading for like past 3 or 4 weeks. So he's obviously coming from an already established channel or establishing the channel using already established works, I think.
Right.
I don't know, maybe he's just this damn good.
Unable to be bred in captivity, the species became extinct in the wild from the mid-1890s, and the last captive creature, called Martha, passed away at the Cincinnati Zoo over a century ago in 1914. The public, while lamenting the loss of their masked spectacle in the landscape, continue eating passenger pigeons until the very end, according to Newman, who is Canada Research Chair in Food Security and Environment at the University of the Fraser Valley. Silphium. Silphium was known as a miracle herb, highly prized by the Romans unable to be farmed only on a narrow strip of land in ancient North Africa. The area was progressively settled by Greek, Roman, and Cyrenian cultures, and silphium was so essential to the latter's economy that their coins bore its image. Thick stalks of silphium were prepared and consumed in a variety of dishes. Its flowers provided perfume, and its aromatic sap was dried and grated to produce a delicious condiment which graced every recipe. It was also thought to have healing, antiseptic, and aphrodisiac properties, leading Julius Caesar to hoard a stockpile of 1,500 pounds or 680 kilograms in his official treasury. The ancient Egyptians and Minoans also loved it, creating a dedicated glyph to describe it, while the Romans celebrated the beloved herb in their songs, poetry, and literature. Silphium, which was literally worth its weight in gold, was attributed in legends as being a gift from the god Apollo. The problem was that the prized plant resisted propagation and farming.
You're
It
right.
was only ever collected from the
He is a
wild
Kiwi.
and then overgrazed by incursive farmers
Overgrazed.
who wanted their sheep to taste better. Predictably, despite government regulations, an unscrupulous black market also arose. The ancient historian Pliny recorded that during his lifetime, only one solitary stalk was found. It was picked and conveyed to the Emperor Nero as a rare novelty between the years 54 and 68 AD. Fast forward, and we have never
And men of all ages have always been assholes. Oh, look, it's the only one of its kind. I'm going to take it to the emperor for the power of Rome. I didn't do it. Did y'all swat me? Stop it. Don't do that. Hopefully the sheriff just not.
actually learnt the true
Call me.
identity of silphium, while perhaps it wouldn't even appeal to modern palates. Many explorers have tried seeking the elusive herb, but unfortunately, the last survey of Cyrene, an ancient Greek city, showed that all species there continue to decline as land is overgrazed or turns to desert. The aurochs. Aurochs were a species of Paleolithic megacattle standing up to 1.8 meters tall with curved horns measuring 80 centimeters and very long legs. In 16th century Europe, as
That is absolutely massive, dude. Why didn't we keep those and just get rid of the cows? I mean, can you
Hello,
imagine
Cheese Bear.
that thing?
Well, I'd say probably because cows want to kill you.
Some of the Texas Longhorns might disagree with you on that point, but okay.
How
You
big
ever-
is a Texas Longhorn compared to that thing?
Oh, about 3 Texas Longhorns makes one of them.
Oh, those
But-
are smaller than Texas Longhorns?
No, it takes 3 Texas Longhorns to make one auroch.
Yeah, I don't think they'd be disagreeing too much. That thing would step all over you.
You remember the stories that you heard about the Minoans and the Mycenaeans and these folks that used to jump bulls?
Oh, yeah.
They were not jumping Ferdinand. They
No.
were aurochs. These were big ballers.
Oh, yeah.
Big
At one
ballers.
point, at one point in time, you could not be a king in Europe without killing an auroch. You had to go out with your little buddies and y'all would corner the fuckers, stab him to death with a stick. Otherwise, you couldn't be king of Europe. You couldn't be a king in Europe, period. It just was not accepted. You were not chosen to be king because you can't kill a bull. Later, it became a bullock, which is just normal cow, basically. But back in the day, you had to go hunt down a half a ton of beef on the hoof and go poke it in the side and bring it back.
How big does that thing get?
Motherfucking goddamn enormous, 3 times bigger than a longhorn.
Okay, that don't tell me shit. How big does it get? Like-
Around 11 tons, some shit like that. It's ridiculous. Hold on. I bet you he tells us.
he started to decline due to hunting, the Polish royal family provided sanctuaries for the creature, ruling their poaching a capital offence. However, the last of their number expired in the Jukterau Forest, Poland in 1627. The narrowing of the aurochs' habitat due to increased farming and modern diseases transmitted by domesticated cattle who were bred from them contributed to their extinction. Multiple attempts have been made to backbreed the auroch following the suggestion of.
Are you familiar with the hell cattle?
No.
Oh, this is a great story. So back pre-World War I, there was an attempt to rebreed the auroch from standing herds of cattle. And there were several German and Austrian and various other countries led trips to like Siberia and to Alaska to go find preserved specimens of aurochs and ice. And while they weren't all very successful, they did find a few frozen specimens. They just weren't able to get semen or blood from the corpses. They were too old. So a secondary front was opened up to breed cattle that matched the description of the auroch and then use selective breeding to make them bigger. The problem with this was, first, they bred for temperament, creating these large black Ferdinand-looking bulls that are currently, right now, running around in Europe that are just absolutely feral. These things were bred to be pissed all the time, and they run around out there. They were bred in Austria for about 25 years. A particular I can't remember the guy's name, but anyway, he bred them for about 10 generations, give or take. And what came out of it was so unmanageable that it required electric fencing to keep it in place.
Huh.
That aggressive. And during World War I, they were released before the war so that they wouldn't be killed and used for food. And so out there in Europe, Eastern Europe, various places, there are these really badass cows that you need to watch your ass about. And I wouldn't doubt if they're not responsible for a handful of the missing people out there. You go camping and come across one of these things, it's 1.5 tons of beef on the hoof that's already pissed. It was born that way. It was bred to be angry. They're called hell cattle for a reason. Now, there was a third prong. This is all during the same time period, which was shifted to England, where they bred for size and appearance before they bred for temperament. And this went a little bit farther, and a few of them are included in like Longhorn stock, but I don't know of anywhere where any of those still stand.
Interesting.
So the effort is out there. The people that are willing to do this exist. It's just going to take about 50 generations to pull it off to breed one, and it still wouldn't actually be an auroch. You know, it'd just be something that walks, talks, and it'd be a case of convergent evolution, basically. Selectively convergent evolution.
They're trying to do the same thing with the mammoth.
Well, with the mammoth, they're hoping to get a hold to enough tissue to actually utilize it for a cloning program or a mixing program with the Asian elephant.
Right. They're trying to reprogram one into the DNA.
Yeah, I'm not sure how well that's going to work. Our last 2 attempts at that ended up stillbirth.
Well,
But hey,
theoretically, it's possible. I don't know if they'll ever be able to achieve it because they're not, God. But
I kind of hope not.
I do too.
I can't remember who it was that said it. There was a quote by some famous author or scientist or something. And after looking at the genome and the gene sequencing of a Northern European as compared to a Sand Bushman, he made the statement that God has given us the keys to our universe, and I think he wants us to take it for a ride. And that is the most terrifying concept of hubris I've ever heard in my life. Those are the people that make dinosaurs. Yep. They're the people that do that special type of research on viruses and whatnot.
Oh, yeah. They're the ones of the pandemic.
I didn't say that, disavow.
Disavow. But,
Anyway, so
absolute evidence that God gave us the keys to the universe. I think we've glimpsed in and saw a few things we recognized and decided to take it from there.
yeah. Well, Are you familiar with the cobra conundrum from Great
No.
Britain? All right. So back in like the 1860s, Great Britain was having a colonial issue in India. And one of the colonial issues was all the white people kept dying. Um, they would go out in the field, get bit by a cobra and die. And so the British government decided to pay for cobras brought in dead. And the natural response occurred. Immediately, people started breeding cobras in farms. And the government's like, you can't do that. That doesn't count. I'm going to stop paying y'all. And so they released all the cobras, and most of the white people got bit by cobras the following year. Like it's a self-enforcing effect that it's the law of unintended consequences. So I want to know, what are the unintended consequences of having eaten every single passenger pigeon in North America?
Well, I would say probably a lot less foliage because they were responsible for a lot of the fertilizing and spreading of seeds.
Right. Exactamundo. Furthermore, you carry that further because of the way they clustered up when they slept. They would brood together in massive groups, and when they brood together, on any given pass, you may have 2 inches of bird poop that accumulated on every surface. If you look back at the very old farmhouses out west, they look like alpine villages. That's why it's not snow. It was bird poop they were worried.
Mhm.
The old barns used to have the big wing double ceilings, double roofs. Yeah, that was not a adaptation for too much snow, which is also possible in those areas, but was an adaptation for a spring flood of bird poop.
Hey, there's something wrong with my phone, and it may die in a minute. If it does, I'll be back in about 20 minutes.
All right, man, that's fine.
I
We're
don't.
gonna finish this here, doohickey, about another 20 minutes, and then I'm gonna sign off. I don't have any of my OBS sounds. I need you to come chew through my OBS for me.
Okay.
I lost the sounds, and I've reset everything from scratch. I've done everything except uninstall it and reinstall it. You know what a pain in the ass that's going to be. So I'm going to try a couple of other things before I do that. But I've managed to fix my crashing issue, my lag issues, all my other problems. But that sound disked out whenever I moved from my studio from in there to in here. And I haven't had sound on any of this stuff ever since, like ever, nothing. For some reason, none of this works. Like you should be hearing music right now. In fact, if I look at it, it shows it playing music, but there's no music. Nobody can hear it. It's not happening.
That's weird.
I mean, y'all aren't hearing it in YouTube, are you?
No,
Okay.
I'm not in YouTube. I'm
Right,
in
no,
StreamYard.
that's what I'm saying is in YouTube land out there. Maybe they were hearing it because I don't hear it here for some weird reason. I've changed my monitor. I've changed all of everything. I've flipped it, fiddled it, flipped it all the different ways. I even changed the destination from which I drew it. I went and copied the file and saved it in a different file and changed the location of the file I got it from. Doesn't care. Doesn't matter. Just it's not playing it. It'll show the image, but it doesn't play it. That's a common problem with OBS, though. It's usually why I have my after dark bit.
Well, I've never had that issue, but it's got to have something to do with your what you've got your sound set up.
Somehow, yeah. What I don't understand is why it didn't happen until I moved my physical setup. Worked fine there all the way up to the last day. I actually shut down the computer, picked everything up, moved it in here, and set everything back up, and then rearranged my room. When I started the very next time, I just didn't have any sound in it, but it also updated. And I've gone in and chewed through all the different little, man, I don't know, man. It's beyond me. Or maybe it's not, and I just haven't got there yet, but I'm going to go.
I'm down to 1%. I've got to go. I'll be back in 20 minutes.
All right, brother.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
19th century Polish zoologist Felix Poljarocki.
That guy makes
In
me
the
nervous
1920s,
sometimes.
this was first attempted by Heinz and Lutz Heck, two German
he's still here.
geneticists and zookeepers who were brothers.
The
Oh,
new
good
best way
God.
to make money online that nobody's
I don't
talking
care about
about
your
is something
making
you've
money
never heard.
online schemes. And
Goering, Hitler's so-called
we still got
right
AJ?
master of the hunt, to
Or am I
produce
frozen
a
too?
living effigy of the lost creature as a metaphor for the strength of the Nazis. The Auroch were icons of old, featuring in Teutonic mythology, and in real life were reputed to have charged aggressively when hunted. The Heck brothers created the so-called Heck cattle, who have since been judged to be the lightweight imitations of original aurochs, but were dubbed Nazi super cows and hunted recreationally by bare-chested Nazi officials. After World War II, a British farmer come conservationist called Derek Gow imported 13 of these bulls and cows to his farm in Devon to enhance the forest ecosystem.
Hey, brother. Welcome to the show, ATL.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How you been doing?
All right, just hanging out,
That's cool.
doing my thing.
I noticed you've been doing the targeted individual thing, filming random cars saying they're cops. That's kind of creepy. I'd rather you be paranoid and them not be cops than them actually be cops. I'm just saying.
You sure you got the right person there, bud?
I might be mistaken. I might have the wrong video series.
The last one I put up, the guy, get a load of this crap. This guy was down on his luck. He was living out in his car, and he was a real naive guy, you know. And he was feeling really bad. He's like, you know, he was asking me, is it illegal to live in your car and all this? I'm like, dude, there's nothing wrong with living in your car. People go through that. A lot of people live in their car now. It's just people are down on their luck. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, you
And
got to start somewhere, and at the bottom
yeah,
is the best place.
yeah. And then this cop is making him feel like he's a retard, like he's an idiot and everything else under the sun. And then he tells the cop, "All right, maybe I need some help." And he's like, and the cop's like, you know, you want me to call an ambulance for you? So they do like a mental health check on him. And you know, and the cop kind of walked off to the side before everything I had. It's like, dude, these cops are not your friends. They want to put you in a cage.
They do.
And yeah, and I told him, you know, just if you need to go to the hospital, just drive up there, man. Don't have them do this to you. And the cop got pissed off at me in the video. It shows it, and the ambulance driver is like, "Well, we need to pat you down before we let you before we check you out and take you to the hospital." I was like, "Why does?" And I told her, "Why does he have to waive his Fourth Amendment rights to get medical service?"
They say something about HIPAA.
No, they didn't say anything about HIPAA. They were like, "Well, for safety." It's like, safety? Are you kidding me? And it was like, yeah, on these calls, it's for safety. It's our policy. It's like, it's your policy. It's not law. And you take Medicaid, so you take federal government money, so you can't, just automatically try to waive someone's constitutional rights. I said it in less words, of course. But yeah, the cop got pissed. He's like, "You want a problem? I'll call my boss." I know his boss. I was like, "So is it Nichols or Wade?" And the cop's like, "Oh,
When was this?
this?"
I'm sorry.
In my last video, they kicked the man while he was down. Not literally,
Yeah.
He was going through a hard time, and I'm like, I told him, "Look, he's not your friend. These cops are not your friends. If you need to go to the hospital, just drive up there." He was under the impression that he was young. He's a young guy. I think he was like maybe 20, 22. And he's like, "Is it illegal to live in your car?" Like, dude, there's nothing wrong. And he was feeling guilty about it. Like he felt shitty that he had to do
What's up,
it.
George?
And I told him, "Look, man, there's nothing wrong with it, man. A lot of people are going through shit right now. There's nothing wrong with it. You're working, you're living in your car, you'll make it. Don't worry. You're okay." And the cop talked him into getting a mental health, and they immediately started treating him like a criminal. And I'm like, fuck. I just, it boiled my blood. You go to the hospital for
I
a
don't see a
mental health
lot.
issue, and they treat you like a criminal. They want to put handcuffs on you. They want to search you. They want to have you on constant watch. I'm like, dude, no, this is not helping anyone. But what are you gonna do? So they ended up taking him.
You do the best you can with what you got. That's all you can do.
Yeah, I just felt bad for him because he went through that because he's young. He's young and he doesn't know any better. You know, like I said, he was a black guy. He was probably in his early 20s.
You said it was your latest video?
Yeah.
All right, folks, y'all got about 10 minutes to get backstage if y'all want to come watch the movie with me.
What movie are you putting on?
Munchies.
Munchies.
I figured if we were going to do an 80s movie, we might as well start out right. And we'll do it in private, and it'll be fine.
What the hell's Munchies about?
It's one of those mid-80s creature features that came out, kind of like Critters and
okay.
The other one.
I know I've probably seen it. I've watched every damn movie in the 1980s.
It's basically a euphemism about kids getting high and going crazy. I don't know.
It's a documentary.
Yeah, maybe. Kind of like They Live.
How are you feeling today, ATL?
Oh, pretty good.
Good.
I'm glad.
The chemo I was on, it was the low dose chemo. It sounded like the chemo they give to cancer patients.
Right.
But I tell you, that last round, whew, it knocked me on my ass. But no, I'm back. I'm feeling it.
Yeah, my pops did some of that stuff a couple of years ago, and this is a man that I have seen have a heat stroke and get back on the tractor and finish the South 40. And it put him down, like deep down. He sat there. I remember him sitting there with his head in his hand, drinking a cup of coffee. And I come in and asked him if he wanted some breakfast. And he looked at me and he said, "Is it going to eat itself?" "Oh,
Yeah.
sir. No, I don't want any breakfast." And he usually didn't let stuff like creep up on him. You want to come up, official misconduct? If you don't want to come up, that's fine. It's with you. But I do kind of need to see you or, thumbs up or something like that. Because we're still on YouTube at the moment. And I can't hear you yet.
I need to lay down so I can watch his video better. He kind of filmed it the wrong way.
Oh yeah, you know what? I was kind of holding the camera so they wouldn't notice.
I've done it, dude. I've done it.
Yeah, I didn't want to make it obvious that I was, trying to film them.
Man, you know that you can put that in the editor and rotate it, right?
Yeah. Hey, dude, you can do it in OBS. You can do it in the editor. You can do it on your phone.
I'm not smart.
You are smart. You're very smart.
It has nothing to do with intelligence. It has more to do with dedication. Is that George Ward? How you doing, brother? You want to come up on screen, or are you waiting for the movie?
Saying hello.
Hey, you know what?
It'll work.
It's working.
All right, cool.
You know what Einstein said about intelligence, right? It's like he said that it wasn't that he was smarter than someone else when trying to figure out a problem. He just spent more time working on the problem.
Yeah.
That's all.
Who was it? It was it Edison that after 725 attempts to make a light bulb, having failed, they asked him why he didn't give up. He said, "Because I know 725 ways not to make a light bulb."
Mm-hmm. how many different ways I could not make it?
Right. I know how not to make a light bulb this many ways, and I'm going to keep trying it until I find one way that works.
Well, when you're doing R&D, that's what you do anyway. So now he doesn't have to invest in his R&D. He did it already.
Yeah, and it's good time. But I mean, part of the issue we're having nowadays is you can't do real garage research anymore. It's so specialized and so advanced without either being a phenom of some sort or something like that, you're not going to be able to compete with a major university and the most brilliant minds in the world working on it in your garage.
No, we're getting into technologies that need a little extra. Yeah, you know, the old technologies, you can put something together with the things lying around your house.
Right?
Not anymore.
Not
We have
anymore.
next level technologies out there. Like
Thank you, Steve.
tabletop fusion, is it called? You know, cold
Cold
fusion.
fusion. Tabletop fusion would be amazing, but I would be satisfied with a cold fusion generator the size of a mountain. It'd be fine. Size doesn't matter at that point. It's what it does.
You can make it happen. Fuck.
I don't think you can make cold fusion happen. Fusion involves a release of a massive amount of energy. That energy is released as heat, light, and radioactivity.
Well, you know, like a roulette table, you know, it's a nice smooth. There's no friction.
Yeah, sure, but
Oh.
that's still over unity. Cold fusion is over unity. Now we can do a hot fusion probably on Earth at some point in time with some manipulation. And we could utilize the heat to create energy that was desperately needed all over the world. The problem is that the types of materials downstream from a normal fusion process, we don't even really know what it would be. We just have theories.
Well, I thought we already did it with the super colliders.
Fusion, we have collided some shit together to make what we think would happen with fusion.
And isn't the problem with the fusion too? If an iron gets introduced into it, you're in a lot of trouble. And given the fact that we live in a ball of iron,
I have it seems like in my brain there's this feeling that it's more along the lines of it tends to generate out to a neutral form of iron. I'm not sure what happens. In the collider, you can't have iron because it's highly magnetized. I would imagine that your fusion reactor would also have to utilize a magnetic containment vessel, would be my guess. I mean,
no, I was thinking mass concerns. You had to get a hyper mass, but I don't know. I'm
see, that's
just,
the thing. For fusion to act, we currently, the only place we know of is the theoretical point, the center of the sun.
yeah, with the liquid hydrogen.
Right. Liquid metallic hydrogen that's isotope to hydrogen 223 or what the fuck. Anyway, my uranium P-37 space modulator.
Yeah. What's crazy is I know exactly who you're talking about too.
Oh boy. All right, so that's 3 minutes. Anybody wants backstage for the movie? Hop in. Links pinned to the top of the
Okay, so I want to talk about your video real quick since we're
Yeah,
just
go ahead.
bullshitting.
Go ahead.
What? Well, okay. So this dude's living in his car. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, he works at Waffle House and he's living
Okay.
out in his car because he's fell on some hard times.
Okay, and so what? Were the cops called?
Yeah, he was in the parking lot over at the YMCA,
Uh huh.
and a lady called on him because he looked suspicious.
Okay.
He was taking a nap.
Okay.
So that's when, you know, the cops came and started questioning him. And the kid felt like, you know, I'm saying kid because he was in his early 20s.
Right.
And the kid felt like he was doing something wrong. He was guilty. He's a nice person.
Right.
And
So when you and I'm only because the whole sideways is messing me up when I'm trying to watch it. So I'm just gonna ask you.
yeah.
So when the cops got there, were you there from the beginning? Yes.
Yeah, but I only started filming it when I was outside.
So what did the cops say when they came up?
Well, that was inside of the building, and I didn't
Okay.
tape it in there, and I was asking, the cop was asking him, you know, what are you doing here? He was asking his name, he wanted his ID, and then he just kept on throwing random questions at him, one after another. He went through like a list of 100 questions.
Right.
I'm like, you know, even a person, you know, a normal person that was, you know, up couldn't, you know, handle this kind of interrogation, you know? And here's this guy down on his luck, and this cop keeps on asking him derogatory questions or questions that put him down further than what he is. You know what I'm talking about, AJ?
Yeah.
He's putting him into a dive with all these questions,
Right.
making him feel like he's guilty of something, like he's some kind of a criminal, like there's something wrong with him.
Right.
So by the end of the conversation, he's like, "All right, yeah, maybe I need some help." And the cop's like, "Are you asking me for help?" I'm like, Jesus Christ. Christ. Jesus Christ. I cannot
So what
believe
he
I
say
had
to you
watched
when
this.
you told him, when you were talking to him, when you
I
were like, you
told-
don't have to do that.
I told him because the cop walked off and started making a call. And I say, hey, did he say you were detained? And he was like, no. It's like, well, you could leave at any time then. And I also said, because he brought up that he's living in his car, he was telling me the situation.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, so there is nothing wrong with living in your car.
Right.
People go through this. There's a lot. I told them there's a lot of people living in their car. I told them you have a job, you're doing good. You can make it. You're just down on your times right now.
Right.
And he was like I said, he was young and he acted young.
So
And here
did they
we
get
had-
his ID?
Oh yeah, he gave it all up. He gave it all up.
So the cops are the one who called the ambulance or whatever?
Yeah, the cop called the ambulance because he asked them to call the ambulance after getting questioned. I hate saying
After
questioned,
after making him feel like he's a piece of crap because he lives in his car and he probably needs help. Okay.
Yes.
Fucking bastards.
Correct. That is 100. Now you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, AJ.
That's
And
sad.
it pisses me off. It is sad that they would do it. Here's a guy, he has a job. All he's doing is living in his car. Leave him the fuck alone. He'll make it. Leave him alone. But that cop went over there and knocked him down.
And
Tore
he was
him-
already down.
Yeah, he was. They tore him apart, and they did it so nicely. They were so polite and professional about it.
Yes.
I'm like, you fucking pig.
Yes.
I don't know. It just boils my blood. It boils my blood to see someone put down like that. That's what happened. I want to fight his fight, but I know I can't. I have my kid. I had my kid at the Y. I'm waiting for him to get out of the play sessions. I couldn't really do too much, And then the ambulance driver is like, we have to search you and everything else. I was like, why do you have to search him? Oh, for safety.
Oh, wrong.